Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hero News. Chewie! Welcome back, sir. So good to have the A-team back on board.
Oh my God, did I just do a dab? I don't know what happened.
Oh, did you? I wasn't watching.
I dabbed.
Did you go like that?
I've never dabbed before. I'll hopefully never do it again. I assume I was possessed by demons.
Chewie, 2020 wants their dance move back, mate. What are you doing, boomer?
Yeah.
Okay, boomer.
Yeah. Just trying to keep it relevant for the kids.
Keep it real from 4 years ago or something like that.
Wickety whack.
How's the weekend?
Yeah, pretty good. I unleashed my fully weaponized ADD.
Unleashed the Kraken?
Let me explain how that works.
Yeah.
My partner is coming back shortly after being away for 2 months, so I'm in full tidy up mode now, and I thought I better give the house a vacuum. Right, that's where it starts. Do a job. Don't complete the job. Find another job before you finish that. So I did a little bit of vacuuming, and then I thought I'll move the bed. It would be super gross under the bed, and it was. So I moved the bed into the hallway, and then I thought, well, now I've got that out of the way. Well, I might as well
paint the walls,
clean the carpet, because we've got a carpet cleaning machine. So I'll move the rest of the furniture out into the hallway. Now I've got that out, man. I've had a projector that I haven't been able to set up. Maybe I set it up in the bedroom. But to do that, I need to have a clear wall. So let's take all of my partner's artwork down off the wall.
Oh, goodness.
Now put it up on the other wall. Now move the bed over there. Move all the furniture back in. I've completely redone the bedroom. And now I have the equivalent of a 102-inch TV in my bedroom.
And no room for your partner when she comes back?
No, I think I've made more space. Weirdly, I don't, just by putting the bed in a different place. I don't know, but it looks pretty awesome. And that's what happens when you just give in and let the ADD gremlins just go nuts.
So I had a really boring weekend. I don't mean to tell everyone about my boring weekend, but it was really, really cold here in the weekend. Yeah, certainly on Sunday.
Oh God,
it was a terrible one. And we had some sickness in the house, so we decided we'd just chill for a bit. And so I watched 3 movies. I watched, knowing it was going to be terrible, I watched Meg 2. Have you seen Meg 2 yet?
Oh, yeah, I saw the reviews.
I
legit
but
liked the first one.
Yeah, but it's
I don't know.
It's terribly good. It's good and it's terrible. And I finally watched Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and actually was pleasantly surprised. The first one's still the best. The second one's pretty good, and the third one's up there with the second one. Yeah.
Tell
and
me
the last
you didn't
one,
cry.
I got a bit teary. And the last movie I saw over the weekend, do you know Sisu?
Oh yes, the Swedish one about killing Nazis.
Yeah. So if people don't know what Sisu is, it's made by the people who made John Wick. And honestly, imagine if John Wick was Finnish in 1994 and his enemies were Nazis. That's pretty much the storyline.
Literally the perfect movie.
Yeah, in German, because Russian, sorry, because he fights the Russians from the First World, the Winter War, they call it. The name they called him meant immortal. So, movie's called Sisu, and even though it's Finnish and it says on the setup, languages are English and Finnish. It's English all the way through, except for about the last 2 minutes, where he's speaking Finnish to someone in a bank, and that's about it. Really good. Sisu, you should really see it. And yes, Simple's obviously seen it. It says it's a brutal movie. That's the John Wick situation. John Wick, there's lots of headshots, for example. That does happen in this movie quite a lot. So, yeah. Hey, now, one big thing for people to know about, we haven't read the bottom of the screen yet, then let me just help you out here. We are back up and running with our merch. We have a call in to get some caps, because I know some people asked for them. We have, if the left votes, the left wins, in both red and green. As I said, you never get the same thing twice. So this month you've got red if the left votes wins, if the left vote, the left wins, and green, both hoodies and t-shirts up there at the top. You can see them. And then we've also got hoodies with just BHN on the front, white with red or black with red, and t-shirts, black and white. So they are going at the moment, and we're going to do something kind of special. You guys probably know that I'm sometimes not particularly well organized. A lot of the time. So the free delivery we did last month when we did this, kind of ate up most of our profits. Not all of it, but most of it, especially if you're a rural delivery and it was like $16 or $14 to send you a t-shirt. So what we're going to do is there's a little delivery charge on there, only $5. Actually, to be honest with you, the delivery charge still doesn't cover all the delivery, but what I'm going to
pretty much going to take the sting out, and that's about it.
What I'm going to do each night is I'm going to set up a promo code that is only active whilst we're doing a live stream. And that will give you free delivery. So as you can see on the bottom of the screen right now, if you purchase something tonight, and that's basically before 10:30, because I know Chewy loves to take our hour show into an hour and a half. The promo code is already pre-set up to stop at 10:30. And the promo code for tonight is free ship. One word, free ship. So each night I'll give you the promo code. It'll be different each night. And assuming I've set it up correctly, when you're with us during the live stream, so that's just 4 times a week, Monday to Thursday, there'll be a promo code for you to get it. Now, the other thing is we are going to print these we're not going to print them every Friday. We're going to put the order in every Friday. So last time we kind of waited till the end of the full 2 weeks, then put them in, then had and it took some time. But what we're going to do is we're going to get them every single Thursday night. I will send the order off to the printer. He will order them on Friday, print them probably Monday, and Tuesday, Wednesday of the following week, they'll be out there. We're running this for 3 weeks, but it means if you want to get, pardon me, if the left votes, the left wins, leading up to the election, and you order it this week, then you should have it by the middle of next week, maybe by the end of next week. And, the election is still, 6 weeks away, 7 weeks away, 8 weeks away, something like that. So I just thought people might want them a bit sooner. So we're going to do a print every week for the 3 weeks. So there'll be 3 different print times. One probably Monday, Tuesday next week, then Monday, Tuesday the week after, then Monday, Tuesday the week after. And that'll have them all out to you before the end of September, like all of them. So that'll clear
the green one looks pretty good.
You like that one? Would you get it with white text, or would you get it with black text? True. What would be yours?
I'd be white.
Yeah, I think so too. Actually,
the black fades into the green too much. It'll work on the red one, but don't think it'll work on the green.
Now, the other thing to let you know about, and we've talked about this, but I because we have this thing that we don't like to give out the same product twice. What we're going to do for anything to do with BHN content is see on the bottom right-hand corner, on the back bottom right-hand corner, there's a little OB. Now, it's only going to say that for hoodies and T-shirts and BHN merch, not the slogans, but the BHN merch for 2023. So what that means is if you buy it in the first run of what we do, you become an original beardy. So OB, original beardy, BHN. So printing these in 2024, that will not be there. It means in 2028, when we're like, do you win Oscars for this? I think you win Oscars for doing podcasts, don't you? When we win an Oscar, you'll be able to wear your one that'll say OB on the back, and you'll go, I knew since day one that they were going to be amazing. And it's your little way of kind of going, we've been on board since day one. It makes sense? Yeah, that makes sense. All right. What to talk about? We are going to be talking. I had a huge amount of fun over the weekend cutting up something that I heard on the platform last week where Julian Batchelor was talking about suing Sanjana Hattatowa and TVNZ. But Chewy, he kind of said the quiet thing out loud.
Surely not.
He did. So what I thought I'd do is I went and found one of New Zealand's foremost defamation lawyers and had a chat with him today about defamation and what it's all about. We'll play that interview as we go through the evening. We're also going to be having a look at this. I don't know if it's hilarious or not. People always go, oh, but you're biased. You're on the left. And you're like, yeah, okay. You caught us. We're trying to hide that. That's such a well-kept secret, Chewy. So I kind of think it's pretty hilarious what happened to Christopher Luxon in the protests today. But equally, playing a straight bat and each ball on its merits happened to Chewy by the same people. Chippy by the same people a couple of weeks ago. And even then we kind of went, it's just a part of politics. This feels a bit different because it wasn't just a general walkabout. It was actually an organized presser. So we'll have a look at that. And also, Chippy ruling out Winston Peters, which feels a bit like when you break up with that girl and she says 4 weeks later, well, I broke up with you. But, why did he say? I think there's some real reasons why he did actually say it and why he put it out there. And we'll get to that as we go through the night as well. What else, Joe? Anything else you want to cover off?
No, I'm not going to. I'll save my tangents for the end.
All right, good, to keep us an hour and a half into it. Let's start with the story around Winston Peters and Chippy kind of saying to them, "No, we don't want to be with you. We don't. It's we don't want to be with you." And this is the story from last night, but that's because it was announced yesterday afternoon. And I got some thoughts around this as to sort of. There's some good things about this announcement, and there's some absolutely ridiculous, stupid things about this announcement. But let's have a look, shall we?
Chris Hipkins has drawn a line in the sand, vowing he will not, under any circumstances, work with Winston Peters after the election.
Good.
The Labour leader saying New Zealand First is a force of instability and chaos. Our senior political reporter Benedict Collins joins us live shortly. First, his report.
There were handshakes and pics aplenty.
Thank you so much. No worries.
As Labour's leaders strolled through these Wellington markets today.
That's my mum. Yeah.
But do they think Chris Hipkins can win the election?
I bloody hope so.
Yeah? You think he's got a good chance? Yeah?
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
We love him.
If I was to put money on it, I'll put it on Chris.
Which one?
Oh, sorry. I'll put it on Labour.
National and ACT together.
Yeah.
Got to form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think it's time we had a change in New Zealand of government?
Yes, of course. It's been 6 years, so we need some change.
A short time later, though, it was full politics mode.
I'm ruling out working with New Zealand First and Winston Peters after the election.
He's had enough.
And then there's Winston Peters. He's seeking to make trans people the enemy in this campaign.
Oh, that's just humbug. I'm not.
Humbug.
So what's behind Labour's move?
I made it really clear at the beginning of the year when I took on this job that before the election I would set out who we can and we can't work with, and that's exactly what I'm doing today.
Jacinda Ardern seemed to get on pretty well with Winston Peters. I mean,
Don't tell Winston's voters about that.
Since then.
Like I said, I think the positions that he is taking at the moment, he's courting as many sort of disaffected groups as possible and trying to stoke fear and division in order to cobble together a 5% party vote. Well, the anti-vaxxers, the anti-trans.
So this part of the conversation, and I'll probably play something a bit later on. I think I've told this story before. I interviewed Don Brash one time, and Don Brash, and I've heard Christopher Luxon say this, Don Brash had said publicly that, running to be Prime Minister is just basically a big job interview. And I played Don Brash a piece of audio where he wouldn't answer a question. Like Duncan Garner was like, what would you, and he was like, this is a diversionary tactic, and he wouldn't answer it. And I played it to Don Brash and I said to him, in what world do you live where you can go to a job interview and not answer the questions? And to his credit,
is an answer.
Well, to his credit, he said, yeah, that's fair enough. One of the things I got from this, and I look, if I'm being fair, and I don't have to be, but I will be, this is just a short clip. I haven't got the whole press conference. Maybe there was several times where he said the same thing, but it feels like Chippy is answering questions here. And I'll play you a clip a little bit later on. I won't play you the whole clip, but there's like a 5-minute, like a stand-up presser where when they were talking to Luxon about ruling out Winston, he says at least 5, if not 6 times, almost word for word, we are aiming to give National our party vote. He basically says, he never says he's going to rule them out. He also says our message is to vote for National. And he says like 5 or 6 times in a 6-minute stand-up presser outside an event. And he just wouldn't answer the question. And I kind of felt like after I'd watched that, removed the bullet from my forehead and then watched this, I was like, at least he's answering questions. He's being straight up. Now, that's a part of the ploy here for Labour. That's a part of their messaging, which I'll get to shortly. But we'll just get to the end of this bit first. Chippy. Chippy. Why am I calling you Chippy?
You call him Chewy.
Yeah.
And me Chippy.
All right. So we'll listen to the end of Chewy, and then me and Chippy will have a chat about it.
Well, the anti-vaxxers, the anti-trans.
With the greatest respect, Mr. Hipkins, I've been around a whole lot longer than you, and that sort of nonsense won't cut it in this campaign. People want real answers for real concerns.
Labour vowing it won't work.
Real concerns, like who has a winky in my bathroom?
With Winston Peters, no matter what.
That will be Christopher Luxon's problem.
Well, as I said, I've been very clearly saying he's not above the threshold. He's not in Parliament. And what I'm focused on is making sure I maximise the National Party vote.
Chris Hipkins is basically acting like the child in the room.
But Mr. Luxon could have a problem on his hands.
This is really
Mr.
interesting.
Peters and Mr. Seymour.
So now we're going into the conflict between Seymour and I almost like. Obviously, I want the left to lead the next government, right? Yep. And from where I'm saying, I haven't said this publicly before, with a fairly heavy influence from the Greens, right? Where I'm sitting. Mm-hmm. But if that doesn't happen, I can't wait to see National and ACT and New Zealand First try and form some kind of coalition. That will be fucking hilarious. It won't be good for the country. I won't be happy about it, but something about that negotiation between Winston and Seymour, I do like a blood sport. I'm just saying, it'll be interesting to watch. That's what I'm saying.
Or don't exactly like each other.
Selfish, narrow, inexperienced extremism.
I don't think anyone's been able to
Winston said that Seymour has extremism with what Winston's been saying recently.
work with him. That's his track record. People think he deserves another chance after all that he's done to this country. He doesn't.
And as for the big party leaders,
they are a coalition of cuts and chaos.
It's a coalition of chaos.
Sorry,
and more
what
of
was
the
that?
same.
I didn't quite hear that. What was that?
Coalition of cuts
Maybe it
and
was
chaos.
garbled.
Yeah, it wasn't. That's not
Coalition
good
cunts.
messaging. No cuts, not cuts and chaos. Not good messaging though that you take on Luxon's talking point to be your talking point. It does look a little bit weak. Let's be honest.
Oh, look, they're just repeating each other's words now.
well, you did right about that, Mr. Peters. It
So
looks like chaos all round.
You got any votes in that car?
It's
got any votes?
I've got some lollipops and puppies with me.
I'll give you a $3 tax cut if you give us the fucking votes.
So here's why Labour's doing it. Yeah, they're talking to their base, right? So what they're doing is they're supporting their base. So Chippy doing that is saying to his base, you can trust us in these areas. For example, trans rights. Now I know that's not a big popular percentage of the population. It's not a big voting bloc, but what he's saying to those on the left who are ardently in support of that minority, you can trust us with that minority. So he's speaking to his base. That's the first reason he's doing it. The second reason he's doing it is to make sure everybody knows what a whack job the messaging from New Zealand First is. So even if there are people sitting on the fence going, no, National New Zealand First, National New Zealand First, well, what am I going to do to hear this repeated anti-vaxxer, anti-mandate, anti-trans thing put onto New Zealand First? I don't think it's going to win Labour any votes, but I think what Chippy and Labour are going to do is make sure everybody at least knows what that is out there. And for some people, that'll attract them to New Zealand First. But what the payoff will be between those that'll attract and those that'll repulse, I guess that's what they're looking at. Joey.
Yeah. Look, I think you're right. I hadn't thought about this, but I'm going to agree with it. Hipkins should not repeat as much as we want to, as much as we agree that coalition of chaos is going to come back to bite Luxon. That three-headed monster that he was talking about is going to haunt him because he's obviously leaving the door just to open a little bit of a crack for Winston to come through. But yeah, you're right. The more I think about it, the more that I dislike that he's picking up that messaging, because it hammers home the point that a coalition is a bad thing.
Well, either coalition, and it also makes them look weak, like they can't come up with their own pithy little saying. It's not smart.
MMP is built for coalition.
Yeah.
It's one of the like I'm voting along those lines because I want Labour to come further left, so I'm going to vote for someone further left. Yeah. And that's how it works. That's why we don't have first past the post anymore. But yeah, you're right. It's speaking to the base, and I think they do need to do that because let's be honest, the past 3 weeks have not been good for Labour's base, especially those towards the left-hand side of Labour, where he's got criticism for being, weak or a little bit wishy-washy, and it's not everything that everybody wanted.
It has
maybe
been
it's
really
just shoring up the loss.
It's been really interesting to see. There's been a little bit of titter on Twitter over the weekend about National stumbling, National peaking too early. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but in the weekend, and I haven't got it to play tonight, maybe I'll drag it up for tomorrow night. In the weekend just gone, Luxon was having to defend his abortion views again. So that came out in a conversation. He was defending it again. Now, I think that Labour should be screaming that from the rooftops. In fact, Chippy did. That's in one of those conversations. Chippy did talk about women's rights. I will look after women's rights. There are people in National who celebrated when women got the right to choose taken away from them. So he did push that. So he did it, and because of that, journalists and ask questions. Now, no one's been as hard-nosed as we would be yet and gone, now you think abortion is akin to murder, Mr. Luxon. If you were the Prime Minister, are you telling us you wouldn't try and stop murders happening in New Zealand? Because that seems very bizarre to me.
You can have a little bit of murder, a little bit of special murder as a treat.
Yeah.
I've been told that that's a murder that I must not do anything about. Yeah, I've said this, right, for as long as we've been doing the show, right? I said my biggest concern with National is that fundy, conservative, very socially conservative core of National. It's bigger than it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been able to shore up their support over National's lean years. So,
and remember what Suze Wilson said when she came out with Luxon's dilemma. And to make it really clear, Luxon's dilemma is that he has said very clearly he'd do nothing about abortion. But one of the reasons he said it is because he's a populist. And that's not a popular position at the moment. What if society changes? What if all of a sudden there's quite a big block of people that would like restrictions around abortion? Then his dilemma is, what does he do then? His natural inclination with his religious beliefs is to not have abortions, right? That would be, I mean, if you said to him, if you're pro-life, then you are about not having abortions. Forget the inaccurate type. What it means is pro-live birth, because then once the kids are born, the National Party and the right go, fuck them and look after themselves. So it's pro-live birth. But in saying that, if there was like a 70% wanted more restrictions on abortions, then Luxon would be all in, because that would be the popular thing, and it would also line up with his personal beliefs. Now, it's not popular, so he's made the decision not to further it. But the dilemma is, should it become popular, should there be a swing in the marketplace like there has been before, which, to be honest, I don't see coming. But if there was, then what would he do? What could the country expect of him?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think this is really interesting, and I think the humbug between Winston and Seymour is just fascinating. You know, Winston saying overtly he's inexperienced and he's an extremist, and Seymour saying he's fucked up so much in the past, why would we trust him again? Winston is a vindictive old prick, you know, and I just imagine, I honestly could imagine, let's say that National and ACT get to 58 or 59 seats together. I could imagine if Winston felt like it, sitting cross benches and having a minority government and every policy needing to be gone through some kind of process. I also could imagine him giving supply and confidence, because then he's not actually in government with them, but he's propping them up. But I don't see that happening, because Winston has an ego, and I don't imagine that he would be happy to take second fiddle to Seymour, especially with what Seymour's saying about him. And there's another one of Luxon's dilemmas. What's he going to do? I mean, like, honestly, without trying to play the kind of games that they are, talk about chaos. At least on the left, they'll be pretty much in agreement with going forward. Like they'll want to work with each other. Like Māori Party, the Greens and the Labour, they will want to work together. On the right, you've got two parties that don't want to work together. I mean, that's chaotic. That's the definition of chaos.
Another thought I've had, right, is you've mentioned it, like Winston is a shrewd, vindictive operator.
Yep.
If they go into any sort of negotiation, do you think that Luxon has the negotiating nous to come out on top? If you put those two in a room to thrash out an agreement, I would not put my money on Luxon coming out as a winner on that one.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I also heard someone, it might have been, we had this, you probably don't know of him, a guy called Shane DePoe. He's new to the world. He came on Thursday night show. Like I said, the beat.
Yeah, I heard you had a clean face on the show.
A clean face. Maybe it was him who was talking about Luxon as a CEO. You don't have to do that, because what you say goes. So actually, the idea of negotiating and actually working between people and coming to a compromise, you don't have to do when you're CEO. You go, this is what we're doing. And so it will be interesting to see if that is a part of his repertoire.
Yeah, I note with interest, I think it was today, actually. Sorry, I should have brought this up earlier. Mike Hoskins had a go at Luxon on his show to rule out Winston. Asked him the question 6 times in a row with no response.
Well, let's pause then. Let's go and have a look. I mean, I'm not going to play this whole thing because it's basically one question asked over and over and over and over and over again, but you'll get the idea.
Chris Hipkins has ruled out Winston Peters. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, look, I mean, my view very clearly is that if New Zealanders want a guaranteed change of government, they want a strong, stable-led, national-led government, there's only one thing to do, and that is party vote national.
Are you still open to working with Winston Peters?
Well, as I said, I've been very clearly saying he's not above the threshold, he's not in Parliament, and what I'm focused on is making sure I maximise the national party vote. And that's the only way that you
National
can
Party
get
vote twice so far in the first 28 seconds.
Well, as I said to you, my drive is to make sure I maximise the party vote for national.
Three
that is the
times.
guaranteed change of government that New Zealanders want and can get if they
Three
do that.
times in 40
and I've been making the
seconds.
case since the beginning of the year. We've got over 35 policies that are really about making sure how we rebuild this economy, how we restore law and order, how we deliver better health and education. That's what I'm focused on.
Just to be clear, you're not ruling out working with Winston.
What I'm being really clear about, and I continue to be very clear about, is there's only one guaranteed way to change this government, and it is the party vote.
Be very clear
Four
about it,
times.
that's why I had to
So just be
repeat
clear, that's 4 times in a minute and 6 seconds. And remember, that minute and 6 seconds is with about 5 questions. So that's probably 4 times in 30 to 40 seconds of him talking. Party vote national. And you're right. You're right to laugh. To be very clear, you're not ruling out Winston. To be very clear, what I am saying is party vote national. You know, that's not being very, I'm not going to play anymore. You get the idea. That goes on for another 4 minutes.
And
So-
I mean, just the devil's advocate here, right? He's not bad at staying on message, and he knows this.
Yeah.
These
Yeah,
things
yeah.
will be clipped down to soundbite, and the soundbite must include party vote national.
Yep. Fair.
So that's what he's hammering. I mean, even they've said that they're contesting Epsom. You know,
Yeah.
How hard they'll contest it, that's a different story. But
Well,
that's
they've
something
always
that they have
contested it.
stood aside. That they
No.
well they
No, Goldsmith's
said-
been in there. They've always contested it. There's always been an MP there, but they've done the handshake and said, you know, if our guys want to vote,
Yeah.
but they have always technically contested it. But yeah, but this time
Oh,
they're
yeah.
actually going, vote for us. 2 ticks.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, will people in Epsom, lefties in Epsom, vote for Paul Goldsmith to get rid of Seymour?
Well, but the thing at the moment, it doesn't matter because they're polling at 12 to 15%. I mean, they've missed that opportunity. They could have done that for 3 elections
Yeah.
and they could have
Yeah,
got rid of
absolutely.
Seymour if the left had known how to fucking do politics. But they didn't, and he's in there, and now he's gone from 0.5, 0.7 to 7 to 15%. So, you know, good on you, lefties in Epsom. This is in part your doing. Although, here's something, Chewy. Here's something. And this came from my conversation with Shane. He's quite good. You might be getting a pink slip short. No, I'm just kidding. You know how I've always said there's a saying that I've always said, and it's if the left vote, the left wins. And
Well,
it's
I'm familiar.
You're familiar with that? And it's kind of like this, right? It's kind of a little bit like the idea of we just need to vote. Shane kind of spun it a little bit. And what he said was, give me a reason to vote and I will vote for you. So I really like it. I really like the way he flipped it, because I have always been of the opinion you're not entitled to my vote. You need to earn it, right? And I remember the conversation I've had lots of times before about, you know, when people didn't want to vote for Hillary because Bernie got screwed over, and then all the people on the left yelled at all those people who didn't vote for Hillary. They just didn't vote. And I was always like, no, because you're not entitled to my vote. You have to earn it. And the way that it was worded, give me something to vote for. When we talk about Hipkins being timid and not inspiring, he's not giving us things to vote for. So if the left want to win, give us a reason to vote for you and we will turn out. It's too long for a t-shirt, but you know what I'm saying?
Maybe a scarf.
Maybe a scarf.
No, look, that's a very good point. Like, you know, what's something that has polled as quite popular that people on the left have been asking for?
Gun
That's
registry.
been focus grouped out the arse. That Labor changed the law to investigate, and they got their results, and people all agree that it's probably a good idea, but they've ruled it out.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Like that was the thing where he said, no, we're ruling it out. That I went, okay, cool. There's no chance of me voting for Labor this time round. And when that was polling, buddy, you know, high 50s, low 60s, or more in some cases, that people wanted a wealth tax or a capital gains tax or just something. And it was always turned down. That's the thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Pick it up. Just flip flop a little bit and just Come on, crack on, see if it makes a difference.
And of course, people are saying things like capital gains tax and stuff is that sort of thing. Yep. And it is. It's like, so as a politician, it's we've all thought this before, but it was just so succinct. Give me something to vote for. Give me something to vote for, and I will vote for it. And the Greens are doing that because they're giving policy and they're costing it and they're showing how it would work. And I guess
they haven't even mentioned charged crystals or anything. It's just like straight numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, speaking of the chat, I haven't been watching it at all, but it's been very busy. Is there anything you want to get in there?
I just put up the two. There is a t-shirt suggestion in there.
Which is?
T-shirt, it's my honestly held belief. That's for you. And look, someone's reached into my brain and stolen thoughts, which is bad. Brad here says, Winston has no integrity. He always exploits every populist political climate of the day, flops his position to suit. Absolutely. And like, this is why I'm so glad to see, like, okay, the entire left bloc have ruled Winston out. It's cool. Active ruled them out. Awesome. National, just do it. Just shut them down. Shut them down completely.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think that Winston has to be there for National, and this is part of the messaging that Labor needs to stay on for the next 4 to 5 weeks. It's like this messaging, these words, these opinions that are coming out from this part of politics. You have to put that onto Luxon. You have to go, if you're going to take them on board, then you're going to take these positions on board. It actually doesn't matter what you think, because you're going to need to negotiate with these people. And I actually agree that Winston probably will be very ineffective in government. He normally is. He's a very good opposition MP. He's pretty ineffective in government. He takes the baubles and doesn't do much. Even the gold card, people go, the gold card, all the gold card was an amalgamation of all the other services that retirees could already get, but they had to have it on 27 different cards and stuff. The gold card was just an accumulation of all of those. It wasn't that big a deal, and it didn't do what they promised, which was like cheaper power and that kind of stuff. So really in government, he's pretty ineffective, but National will have to, and especially because of Seymour. Seymour's actually doing God's will at the moment, because he's making it so much fucking harder to get Winston on board in a gracious way, which is just chef's kiss. You know, it's just perfect, because Winston will be becoming more and more and more irate, and he'll be like, you know, I've done this for longer than you've had hot dinners, or whatever that fucking saying is. And the more Seymour needles him, the more difficult Winston will be. So ultimately, Seymour's actually hurting the right by doing this. So go for it, David.
I mean, Luxon's been so close to ruling him out. Like he just said, look, he's polling to a point of irrelevancy. You know, I don't even want to entertain it. Then just go a little bit further and go, yeah, I can rule him out because I don't need him. Party vote National. We don't need someone disruptive like Winston. We're confident we've got enough without him. So yes, we'll rule him out. Just do it. Just do it.
Right. Let's do this. And I'm not going to play the song this time around, but let us have a look what's been going on in the merch shop at the moment. Thank you to Graham. Graham from Palmy has got himself a hoodie. Who else we got here? Thank you to Kelvin. Kelvin, who is in Auckland, has got himself a hoodie. Fantastic. All BHN ones, actually. No one's getting the left vote, left green at the moment. Simon and Kenny Pudu in Wellington has got himself a T-shirt, a BHN T-shirt. Nice. We've got Craig in Wellington. Wellington and Palmy is the place at the moment. Got himself a BHN hoodie. I can see people are choosing to pay for delivery as well. That's nice of you guys. You don't have to do that. You can use the down the bottom of the screen. Look, it's going past now. Ready? There's the promo code, but it'll only be active if you buy while you're live in the show. Free ship for tonight. What have we got here? We've got Rob in Wellington, a BHN T-shirt, and that's it from tonight. So fantastic, guys. Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming on board and doing that. Remember, I see some of you are choosing to pay for shipping. It's generous of you and appreciate it. But we want to encourage people so we can celebrate it together to purchase whilst the live streams are on. So we're going to have a different promo code each live stream for you to use if you buy some merch during the live stream. That live stream will shut off tonight at 10:30. So if you're watching this tomorrow or the next day, it won't work. You'll have to come back that night at 9 p.m. for the new for the new thing if you want to save your shipping. So bhnshop.nz for the merch. We've got red and green t-shirts. If the left vote, the left wins. And we've got BHN merch as well. And I've just put a call in today to try and get some caps because I know some people asked for some caps. So I don't know what they're going to cost, but they'll be stitched BHN across the front. Probably black. That's probably all we'll do. And I'll let you know about them when I can know about them. Right. Hey, Chewy, you know how we often talk about your queen? I think we should.
Oh, Chloe.
I think we should go talk to your king.
I've never been so let down with a segue.
All right. So there's a conversation.
Like
there's a conversation.
Dick in the fucking door.
There's a conversation that happened on the platform on Friday with Julian Batchelor. I think it's a really important conversation for us to hear because there has been some legal threats made against a member of the Disinformation Project and TVNZ by Julian Batchelor. And so let's go. It's not a long clip. It's only 4 minutes. So we might as well listen to the whole thing, right? And then I'll point out a couple of things that are pretty serious from this whole thing. I apologize if anyone's hungry that you're looking at a stack of pancakes right now, but we'll have a listen to the conversation and we'll go from there as to what this actually means. And then we've got a conversation coming up shortly, a pre-recorded conversation with a lawyer who specializes in defamation to see what he thinks about it.
All right. So you're still going, you're still holding your meetings, right?
Oh, mate, we're busier than ever. I'm sorry, I'm at the airport at the moment, so if you hear a bit of background noise, I can't avoid it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we're as busy as ever. We've had 60-something meetings. We've got more meetings going all around the country. I'm just off to Queenstown.
That no one can go to.
And no, we're gung-ho. And this guy who
flying around the
said I was a
country
racist,
live
we thought that's
like
enough.
an idiot.
Now this comes from a 5th of August, so you've moved quickly on this. 5th of August 2023.
Yep.
TVNZ runs a story about all this, and Sanjana Hattatowa, who really, I'm not sure, he might get off on the grounds of insanity, but if you do take him to court. What did he say about that you found particularly offensive?
So Sanjana said some things in an interview with TVNZ about Julian Batchelor. This is what he had to say.
He said that I incited hate speech, violence against Maori, and that I was a racist. This is racist rhetoric, and this is the long cloud of colonialism, and so on and so on. So just a whole, sewage pipe.
Where's the lie, Julian?
Defamation stuff, but really rich defamation material. So we thought.
So rich defamation material means that Julian thinks this is a slam dunk, yeah?
That's enough. We've had enough of this, of people saying things which are untrue, completely untrue. And when you look through our booklet that I produced, there's absolutely none of that. In fact, that the violence, saying that we incite hatred towards Maori, we're the peaceful people. And it's
remember, this is the time we should play that Victoria Jacobs clip. We're the peaceful people, when he told people to drag her out and they assaulted her. Should we? No, we just leave that. We know it. We'll take that as real.
I almost think where he says we're the peaceful people, he's talking about white people. Famously
peaceful
people.
It's not all Maori. Sometimes woke white people, plenty of those around. They're the ones who are violent. So we're the peaceful people. He's got it all wrong. Completely.
All right. So your lawyer or lawyers acting for you have written to Sanjay and said what to him?
We've said if you don't offer a public opinion, and it's got to go on
public apology.
TV1, so that'll a public apology. Yep. If you don't offer that, and it's got to be on TV1 because it was a lead story on TV1, so it's like for like. On the 6 o'clock news, then we start court proceedings against him, and it could cost him $50,000 or more.
Now, so that's the first part. We'll get into whether it would shortly, and actually, obviously, the lawyer's not going to comment particularly on this case, but we'll get into what defamation is. This is the most important revealing part. Do you know how there's sort of this? I don't know if we call it an urban myth, but some people deny it, that there's a two-tiered justice system. People often think it's the minorities and the majorities, like the brown and the white sort of thing. It's not. It's those that have money and those that don't. It just happens within New Zealand. Many people of a minority race don't actually have the money, and that's how it pans out. So We need proof that there is a two-tiered justice system involving money. This is where Julian Batchelor says the quiet thing out loud. Listen to this. This is really important to listen to this man admitting that they are going to use money to bully what he thinks TVNZ, good luck with that, but certainly Dr. Sanjana Hattatowa into submission. Have a listen. It's actually quite scary.
Okay.
And that 50 grand we're going to use to pay for booklets to get more booklets out around the country.
Okay. Now, TVNZ published this. So do you take action against them as well?
Yep. The action's already in the pipeline.
So you've written a letter to TVNZ as well.
It's just about to go today. We're just in the throes of formulating that letter.
He's only going to get a new pack of crayons.
That they were responsible. Oops, sorry about this. We've got an aeroplane going over here.
That's all right.
But they were the ones who published it, so they're culpable as well.
Wow. Okay. So TVNZ and Sanjana Hattatowa are under threat of legal action. What's your deadline for them satisfying you?
The 28th of this month. So how many days away is that? About 4 days, I think it is. What's the day today? I don't even know.
So it's sometime next week.
Sometime next week. So that we've said, you've got to do this quickly, no more mucking around. And if you don't, then we start further proceedings to sue you.
So it's not the disinformation project. It's Sanjana Hattatowa personally and TVNZ for carrying what you consider as defamatory statements.
Two-tier justice system. Here it comes.
All right.
And we've got some really big backers who are behind this. Can't tell you who they are, but people who are prepared to go the whole way and have
even Plunkett goes.
This is going to be interesting how this pans out.
Yeah, I'd hate to think, though, that the size of someone's bank account would influence the outcome of judicial proceedings in New Zealand, Julian.
Yeah, but you know what? It does, because the guy with the most money that usually wins, because he can go all the way with the courts, and the courts are expensive, hugely expensive. So, but, if you have somebody that wants to go all the way, then that should be frightening for the other party, because it's like, okay, well, let's get this sorted quickly so we don't have to go all the way, because it gets expensive for everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether they want to take that risk.
I don't know whether they want to take that risk. The guy with the most money usually wins. How else could you read that other than we've got a lot of money, he probably doesn't have enough, so we're going to force him because of our war chest into submission? How else could you read that?
No, that's exactly how it is. What a fucking clown. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, I'm going to write a letter to TVNZ because I've got my feelings hurt because somebody said mean but accurate words about me.
And if you're talking about war chests as well, I think maybe TVNZ will probably be all right for finances. But to literally say publicly the quiet thing out loud, the one with the most money normally wins. That's actually true. We know that. But to say it like, so we're going to not now be careful, be aware, not the one with the best argument is the one that usually wins. He didn't say that. He said the one with the guy with the most money usually wins. He said that publicly. He said that about a case he wants to take against someone. He said, I don't think they want to get into it because we've got the deep pockets. I mean, it should almost be eliminating from being allowed to do it. Because it feels to me, right, honest held belief, we're about to talk about defamation. My honest held belief on this is absolutely him saying, if you don't back down right now, we are going to financially ruin you. That's how I read it. That is my opinion.
Who was that? He's one of New Zealand's richest men, been around since the age of the dinosaur. I think he bought the last mower's drumstick or something. He went after a Māori woman about defamation.
Bob Jones?
Bob Jones. Yeah, he tried that. He's got a lot of money. I don't think he won that, did he? I think it just petered out, didn't it?
Not sure. Look, to be honest, as soon as you say New Zealand's oldest man bought the last mower bone, I didn't know the case you're talking about, but I just thought, that sounds like Bob Jones. So here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. Robert Stewart is one of New Zealand's foremost defamation lawyers. We're going to go watch a chat I had with him this afternoon, and then we'll come back and wrap up this part of the conversation and go on to the end of the show. Before we do that, a huge thanks to Ruben Holland. Ruben Holland just got himself If the Left Vote green T-shirt with white print, and Ruben is from Timaru, just up the road from us, Chewy. So let's go have a chat with Robert Stewart. Have a listen and enjoy of this, Some interesting stuff in here. And at the end of this, the last kind of 2 minutes, I asked him about Chanel Lull and could he have a case against Plunkett. That's a really interesting response he gives. Obviously, Robert's not giving advice based on, he's not giving legal advice. It's more of a general conversation. But here is Robert Stewart talking to us about defamation, what it's all about, how it works, etc., etc., etc. From Shortland Chambers, he is recognised as one of New Zealand's leading media and defamation lawyers. We welcome to the show Robert Stewart. G'day, Robert. Thanks for coming.
No worries. Nice to be here.
Yeah, we're very keen to talk to you as well. This subject comes up every now and again, sort of defamation. We had about it. We talked about it with David Farrier a few months ago, who said he got defamed by a broadcaster, etc., etc., etc. And it's come up again over the weekend with a character by the name of Julian Batchelor, who is touring the country at the moment, doing what he describes as an anti-co-governance tour, being accused of being racist by Sanjana Hattatowa from the Disinformation Centre. And he said he's going to sue him unless he apologizes. So I wanted to talk to someone to sort of get, obviously we're not going to necessarily comment on the case.
Sure.
Well, there is no case. It's a threat of a case. I don't know how you handle that as a lawyer. But to kind of learn from you and get from you, what is defamation, and what is the sort of yardstick for making it stick? So why don't we just ask that question? What is defamation when it comes to a legal context?
Yeah, so look, a defamation is a statement that can be written or oral, which affects the reputation of the person it is directed against, put simply. And so there's no particular set definition of defamation, but anything. And when I'm giving media law chats to journalists, I say, look, when you're writing a story, turn it round and see if you would like it if it was written about you. And if you think, well, that places me in a sort of an awkward light or makes me sound a bit dodgy, you're probably looking at something that's potentially defamatory, because it's going to affect your reputation. It's going to hold you up for potential ridicule. It's going to indicate to people that you're not a very nice person, or people shouldn't associate with you. You're not good at your job. You can't pay your bills. All those sorts of things are traditionally regarded as defamatory. So yeah, anything that
let me ask you this though, because you said sort of as a measurer, if the subject matter doesn't really like it. I mean, obviously there is lots of things that are written or spoken about subject matters that they may not like, which is completely true as well.
Correct.
So obviously it's got to be that, I'm assuming it's got to be that they wouldn't really like it, and perhaps that you weren't 100% sure of your facts. Is that what you're?
Yeah, that's right. So I mean, the traditional sort of yardstick is people say it's false and defamatory, because although something is defamatory, the media and people publish millions of pieces of defamatory content every day. And the reason for that is there are defenses available where the law allows someone to say something defamatory. And the classic first choice defense is it's true. What I've said about you is true, or the meaning that I'm implying is true, and I can prove it. And the onus is on the defendant or the publisher of the statement to prove that's true. Another defense is, well, it's my opinion. And I think this gets to where you're going with your query about an allegation that someone is a racist. Well, there are and it depends whether it's clearly expressed as opinion or not, because if it's expressed as a statement of fact, a bald sort of statement, so-and-so is a racist, then there will be questions about whether or not that's expressed as someone's opinion or not. Are they expressing opinion or making a statement of fact? That's the first issue. That if it is accepted that it's an expression of opinion, the next line of the inquiry is, well, what are the facts on which that opinion is based? Because the law requires in the publication concerned for those facts to be set out or referred to, or the facts must be so notorious as to make them something that everybody knows. So everyone clearly knows what the opinion is based on.
Right.
And so if someone alleges that someone is a racist, then generally I'd expect, in order for the defense to be viable, I'd expect them to set out what the facts were that they're basing that opinion on. And those facts can be referred to or actually expressly set out.
Let's have a look at that, because I think we have, not that we're commenting on this case necessarily, but I think we have the facts, because there's a short clip from this interview. It's only 30 seconds where Julian Batchelor sets out why Sanjana calls him a racist. So I'll just play this, as I said, 30 seconds, and that'll give people the idea.
He said that I incited hate speech,
violence
against
speech,
Maori,
violence against Maori,
and that I was a racist. This is racist rhetoric.
Racist rhetoric.
And this is the long cloud of colonialism, and so on and so on. So just a whole, sewage pipe of defamation stuff, but really rich defamation material. So we thought, nah, that's enough. We've had enough of this, of people saying things which are untrue, completely untrue.
Right. So again, the things that Julian Batchelor said were the defamatory statements, I'm paraphrasing, is that what Julian has said incited hate speech, incited violence against Māori, that he was racist, that he used racist rhetoric, and that the things he was talking about was the long cloud of colonialism. So he's sort of set out a case as to why he has that opinion. Is that kind of what you're talking about? What's your evidence for your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, he would need, so the person making those statements, and bearing in mind we're hearing from the person who claims they're defamed, but the person who's made the statements, if he says, well, he's said racist rhetoric, he's blamed Maori, you would need to, when making those statements, I would have thought, refer to the statements referring to Maori or the rhetoric and explain or identify those statements, because it's those statements that were made. That the fact that those statements were made and what their content was, that is likely to be the springboard on which the opinion is expressed.
So in a court of law, so to speak, person accused of defaming, the person who is said to do the defaming says, well, I have these opinions because he said this and he's done this and this is in his booklet and he says this. Now, he can be wrong in his assertions, but if he can point to what his evidence is, even if his assertion is wrong, but it's an honest held belief, that, well, I mean, so the yardstick's quite high, isn't it, for defamation?
Yeah, it's a little bit trickier than that, because you have to establish that those assertions are actually facts, and you have the onus of proving them as facts. So you would have to prove that the statement was made in the booklet. So you produce the booklet.
Right.
You would have to prove that he made these statements in front of an audience, produce a recording of what was said in front of the audience. So those are the facts. The statements were made, they appeared here, here, and here. And on the basis of those statements, I believe this person is expressing racist views. And that's essentially how the defense might be run if you were looking at trying to establish an honest opinion defense.
You used the term reputation before. Does that therefore mean logically, if someone has a terrible reputation, for whatever reason, they've got a terrible past, they're a convicted criminal, whatever, they've got a really bad reputation, it's therefore harder to defame them?
Yes,
those things connect?
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Wow.
The law allows, it's not a defense, but it's phrased as a matter of mitigation. So you can raise, as a matter of mitigation, the fact that a person has a bad reputation in respect of which the alleged defamation relates. So, if someone had treated someone badly because of their race in the past, for example, then that may be something that you can raise in mitigation of damages. And that's generally how the law compensates people for being defamed, is through the payment of damages or money. And the amount of those damages depends on the severity of the defamation, what the sting of it was, like how bad the defamation was, and also the breadth of publication. So, if you've said it in a national newspaper or on national television, damages, and it is found to be defamatory, no defense applies. Damages are likely to be greater than it's just on a sort of social media post that only 3 or 4 people have seen.
A couple of questions. The first one might be impossible to answer, but how many threats of defamation do you think are thrown out there versus are taken to court, like a percentage wise, if you have any idea? But the second thing is, how successful are defamation cases? Like, if they go that far, do they mostly win? Do they mostly lose?
Look, the first question is impossible to answer, but like people that's the first thing people do when they feel that they've been defamed, is to sort of say, you know, you must retract and apologize, or correct and apologize. And if you don't, I will take you to court. And, you know, they're entitled to do that. In terms of going to court, you know, a defamation case is very expensive, as all court cases now are. The issue of access to justice for the public is something that I know the courts and the judiciary are really looking hard at, because it's become a real problem. The courts are really now only able to be used for civil claimants. It's only really the pretty wealthy who can afford to take a case from the beginning and see it through to the end. That's unfortunate, and it's something that needs to be redressed. But I don't have any clever answers as to how that may happen.
Well, you beautifully kind of led us into the next part of the conversation. I don't know whether that was on purpose or not, Robert, but well done. Lovely segue, as we say in the media. In America, there's a thing called slap suits, where basically my understanding of a slap suit is where basically wealthier people, or people with access to money, kind of take you to court and keep taking you to court until you just back down because you can't afford it anymore. It's a horrible thought and a horrible process. And I'd like your commentary on one other part of this conversation that Julian Batchelor had with the interviewer, where it feels to me he said the quiet part out loud. You know, when people accidentally reveal the dirty secret behind what they're doing. And that's my opinion, an honest held belief, you might say. But I heard this, and for someone like me who doesn't have a massive amount of money behind us, talking publicly, it does concern me. Julian Batchelor absolutely admits that there is a two-tier justice system, and that those with the money tend to win the cases. Let me play you a little 30 seconds here.
Yeah, I'd hate to think, though, that the size of someone's bank account would influence the outcome of judicial proceedings in New Zealand, Julian.
Yeah, but you know what, it does, because the guy with the most money that usually wins, because he can go all the way with the courts, and the courts are expensive, hugely expensive. So
yeah, that's all I need to play. He goes on to basically saying, and so he doesn't use these words, but he's implying, so this guy can't afford it, he'll back down. And I'm just like, holy crap, he said that publicly out loud. How does someone like you respond to that kind of comment?
Well, look, I suppose I go back to answering the second part of your earlier question, which was how many cases actually go to court. So of all the threats that are made, very few actually result in proceedings. And then of those that proceedings are issued in relation to, very, very few of those actually get to a substantive hearing before a judge or a judge and a jury. So most of the time, and I would say 99.5% of the time, a case will be resolved before it gets to a hearing. Now, whether that's resolved because one of the parties has run out of money or just gives up, it's difficult to say. But it would be naive to suggest that those who have the most resources behind them are going to give up sooner than someone who doesn't have resources behind them, because I guess, use a really bad analogy like motor racing. I'm going to go and compete with you against motor racing. I can only afford a Ford Focus non-turbocharged version, and you've got an Aston Martin.
Nice.
It's just it's who's gonna win.
Yeah.
So, but I'd make a big distinction between getting the case to a hearing and winning, because I think it's disingenuous and dangerous to say that the person with the most money will win once it gets to court, because the court will decide.
Well, he said usually wins, and I think what I would assume what he'd say usually is what you've said. We'll just keep going until this person's broke.
So, but once you get to court, the court's going to hear it on its merits. And in my experience, doesn't matter, once you get to court, doesn't matter how wealthy you are, it's whether the jury or the judge believes you've got a good case. And I've seen cases where someone hasn't got a great case, but the jury loves them, so they want to give them a result that they think is fair. And I've also seen cases where there is a good case, but the jury just doesn't like the claimant, and they they give a result which they think's fair to that particular claimant because they just don't warm to the case that they've brought. So that's where you get that sort of personal side of the defamation, and it's much more personal, particularly if there's a jury, than other civil cases. The jury adds a really interesting dynamic. So yeah.
Hey, one last quick question, and this is just a bit off the cuff because it made me think. Defamation in particular, if you know what you're saying is false and you spread it to tens, hundreds, millions of people, I would assume that that would be quite a strong argument to say I've been defamed. If you're actively spreading information that's false, that you know to be false. And before you jump in, I want to, looking at that man who was interviewing Sean Plunkett, in the last couple of weeks, there's a activist in New Zealand called Chanel Lal, and Twitter went around that he'd stolen a bunch of his own books, claimed insurance on them, and then bought them back to get his numbers up. Sean Plunkett tweeted out the real story of Chanel buying 1,000 copies of his own book. It went to tens of thousands of people. That affected Chanel's life. And then in a Stuff interview, he said, "I'd be honest, I didn't think it was really true, but it was a bit of fun." So he spread a rumor that he knew was not true. Chanel suffered, some personal hardship from it. If Chanel came to you with that kind of thing, is that at least evidence for an investigation of defamation?
Well, I think you've got to look at it on the basis of, you don't look at it as to what someone intended or not, and when they're publishing a defamatory statement, because someone's intention to defame or not is actually irrelevant.
So if the intention is to have a bit of fun, doesn't matter.
No, you'd look at whether the words that were used carried a defamatory meaning, and in that case, it was sort of like insurance fraud, basically. It seems to be. And then, was there a defence? Well, if there's not, then what damages should be awarded. And so, if the judge or the jury thinks damages should be awarded, it's only then when a person's knowledge as to whether what they knew or not was false will be relevant. Because if they knew what they were publishing was a falsehood, then the claimant can seek aggravated damages or even punitive damages, which are damages over and above the damages that would otherwise be awarded. So someone's conduct, and it's not just whether they knew what they were saying was false. It can be the way in which they gossiped about it. It can be the way in which they ran their defence, or ran the defence of the claim. It can be lots of factors that go into assessing whether or not damages should be aggravated.
Yeah, really interesting. From Shortland Chambers, one of New Zealand's leading media and defamation lawyers, that is Robert Stewart. Hey, Robert, thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Nice to be here.
There you go. Oh, look at us, big faces. There you go. So I've kind of shot my load with all of that. Pardon the pun. What do you think? What are your thoughts, Chewy?
Go on, Julian. Just do it. Try. Look, it is my belief that this is more of a fundraising effort,
right,
on Julian's behalf, because
right.
He's got this big, expensive law case, and I've got a captive audience that are going to do what I ask them to do, and a lot of this is race baiting, but it's also fundraising. So yes, he's selling his tawdry little. I like that he's calling it a booklet now, not a book like he was. It is more a pamphlet. And I see in the chat, DIY Guru agrees with me. I'm right in thinking that Batchelor's defamation legal threat is simply a PR exercise.
Yeah, right.
Arish JK says a grift to raise money is my guest. Honestly held opinion. So
you guys are okay because no one knows who you are. So you can say what you want. I mean, not entirely.
And just out of interest, while that was playing, I did have a wee look at. So Bob Jones famously took this young woman to court for defamation because she called him a racist, essentially. And he's worth $1 billion.
Is he worth that much?
Like
Holy mackerel.
85, and he's hoarded up $1 billion. And he went after this young female filmmaker, and then he backed down and had to pay costs. So, I mean, if the whole thing was money always means that I win, surely a man with $1 billion in the bank and not much time on the clock, hopefully, could throw all of that at that and win. And he didn't. He had to retract and pay her costs.
Yeah,
So
I guess
think
that's what
probably
Robert,
that's
what
probably
Robert
one
was
of the
saying.
country's most famous defamation cases in recent memory.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. Let me say as well, there's a few comments in the thing at the moment about Chanel goes by they, them, et cetera, et cetera. A few people have said that goes by they, them. I actually do know that, but my brain doesn't do it. So much so as see this tweet here I sent out today. Originally, I put probably as a case against Plunkett for knowingly spreading lies about, and I put him in there. And then I was like, oh, shit, I got to fix that up. So I'm aware of that. It's just it's a quirk, and we all learn. So no offense intended by it. It's no different really from, someone getting married and changing their surname and you're referencing the wrong name for a while until it sinks in to this person's identity and how to reference them. So no offense intended, hopefully none taken. But I actually went back and deleted that tweet and put it out again correctly with a them in there, not a him. So if it slipped out a few times, said. Okay.
So we got Counterspin suing people. We got Julian Batchelor suing people. It's all on. It's all on. Got to keep those legal defense funds that aren't accounted for just ticking over.
I think it was all on this afternoon in a part of botany. Shall we have a wee look? Because it was all on.
Mr. Luxon, we haven't seen you in botany. I'm part of Otara.
Sorry, mate.
We haven't seen you in Otara, Mr. Luxon.
Hey, buddy, why don't we just be respectful of everyone else?
I am being respectful, Mr. Luxon. We haven't seen you down in botany at all. And I think you're...
So a question, being respectful of everyone. I actually don't necessarily disagree with that. However, could one argue if you are never going to come into a part of the city you don't want to adhere to, that's not being respectful either? I agree that this is being disrespectful, but if you're calling for respect, should it be that you are also offering respect to the parts of your electorate that maybe you haven't been seen so easily in? Just a thought. Let's keep going.
We would like you
I think you're a candidate for Vision, right?
We're part of Freedoms New Zealand, and we would like you to turn up into our communities. You are part of botany, and Otara is part of that, and we have never seen you down there, Mr. Luxon.
Mate, it's a very comfortable.
We've never seen you down there when the shootings have come past. We've never seen you down there.
Hey, why don't you be a bit...
I'm also interested in the people behind the thing kind of pulling at him, because I know I'm being a little bit prissy here, but technically they put their hands on him. It's an assault, just purely based on the technicality of the law. I'm not suggesting anything's going to happen from that. I'm not suggesting anyone's going to say anything about it, but from a completely technical point of view, that's unwanted touching is basically an assault. I wonder what, could, if someone wanted to make a fuss about it, would come from that.
Why don't you be a bit respectful, buddy? Because
I am being respectful.
No, we're having a conference here and you're wanting to...
You don't listen to us, Mr. Luxon.
No, very comfortable to come and talk to you. I'm happy. I just said
where were you in where the gun shootings were happening, Mr. Luxon?
I said I'd come and talk to you,
What about Black Rock? We're happy to have a chat with us. Our farmers, our growers, we're standing on their behalf.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to be very respectful
and I'm
to
being
you.
very respectful.
No, you're not.
My community,
no, you're not.
Mr. Luxon.
Well, I said to you, I'll come and talk to you afterwards.
My community is a desperate. They're thinking for housing.
So do you think this is really helping your case?
I'm asking Mr. Luxon. We've been working on the ground.
Hands on him, trying to pull him down.
Working with families.
Be respectful. Let me finish.
You said you've got the solutions to send our children. I'm part of Otara, and we've been doing.
So sorry. So mate,
you're saying you're the better of the two Chris's, Mr. Luxon, but you say you're the better of the real Mr. Chris Luxon.
Oh, you're a funny guy, mate. You're a real funny guy. You know Slim Shady,
you're
buddy.
A Christian, but then you're not changing anything with abortion.
Yeah, mate.
You're not doing anything with.
Did you get that line? So here's a Christian constituency that wants him to do something about abortion. It's coming back, you see.
Anything with.
If you want to be respectful, but you're not being respectful.
I am being respectful.
I don't think you're modelling out your values very well.
We don't want to be
I'll come and chat with you afterwards if you'd like to have a proper conversation.
I'm just putting it to you, Mr. Luxon, that we are looking for answers.
Absolutely, and happy to talk with you.
I think that was actually on the
talk with you
clip. Yeah, I'm not sure why that stopped.
Talk with you.
And then it ends up being that he it's quite a funny finish actually, because he ends up keeping on talking, and Christopher Luxon goes inside and he keeps on talking. So
You're being disrespectful.
I'm not being
Yes, you are. Thank you. Okay. Sorry, guys.
You've got a little bit of time to talk to him. So I'm happy to stay here. I'm happy to stay here. I'm just asking, will the real Mr. Chris?
Okay, sorry. We'll go inside because
Yeah, I'm asking for Mr. Luxon. Sir, I know that you're going to be the next Prime Minister, so our communities want to hold you to account, Mr. Luxon. Our communities want to hold Mr. Luxon, the Prime Minister, to account because he's never turned up to any of our areas of Otara.
So there you go.
Wow.
It's the same. It's the same group that turned up to the Otara flea markets or the markets, the growers markets, when Chippy was there. Remember I said then I wonder if they're turning up because of the area that they're in. I noticed Chippy was in Wellington at the markets again this weekend, no protests. So maybe it's a consolidated South Auckland kind of presence that will stay in that area.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when it happened to Chippy, we were like, it's a part of politics. It's a part of politics. We said to Chippy, fair enough. I don't know. This feels a bit different just because it was a stand-up press conference as opposed to a general walkabout. But I guess in general, it's still a part of politics, Chewy. And I don't know how well, I think Chippy handled it better on the day than Luxon handled it today. But what are your thoughts?
So as far as the people grabbing it, I would wonder if that's actually police or DPS or something like that as well.
If it was, they would just pull him down though. If it was a threat or a danger, they'd just get rid of him.
Look, first of all, he's part of that Destiny shit show. So I would be applauding this from the rooftops if it was just a voter from that area that didn't have an agenda and just go, hey man, you never come down to my area, you never talk to us. What's that about? I think he wouldn't have a leg to stand on. To his credit, he pretty much kept it confined to that. Why have we never seen you in my electorate?
Although the black rock things are part of their conspiracy stuff, but other than that,
yep, absolutely. And the abortion thing, as you said, coming from a very conservative Christian viewpoint, we knew what he was going for there. But yeah, didn't handle it particularly well. But I think, would you ever expect that to happen in a press conference? Someone
no, not like that.
Hello.
Calvin says it's always a giggle to watch Simeon bark at strangers and get completely ignored every single time. It is a little bit like you've got your. He looks so young. No, I'm not saying it from a disrespectful point of view, but it's like Luxon's brought his son with him, and it's like. You know, we're talking. Hey, you just step aside, son. We're talking. The adults are speaking in the room right now. It does feel a bit like that.
One of my favorite. Look, this is a little bit of a tangent, but I remember seeing a photo on national social media. This was a couple of years ago, but it was a couple of front bench MPs in a car, and Simeon sitting in the middle seat in the back. And it just looked like mum and dad had picked him up from school. And
was he in a booster?
Being a good boy, they were going to go and get him an ice cream.
Officially in a booster?
Yeah. Put him in a booster seat, or make sure that his suit always has shorts. Not
watching on Twitch right now. Maori Meteor says that's exactly what I expect from a New Zealand press conference. Reminds me of Tova a little. Yeah, I mean it is very Kiwi, isn't it? Dude just popping up over the back and going, "Dude, what about in my neighborhood? Where the fuck you been?" So it's pretty harmless.
I wish it was just a punter though.
There is definitely an agenda there, isn't there? It's not just like a community worker who's just speaking up for his community. It's a person who's wanting attention to get votes to get into parliament himself. So there is a little bit of that going on. Got it.
And purely from a tactical point of view, you know, you don't have the funds. You're not going to get the same airplay as the big boys.
Yep.
So how are you going to get some attention? And that particular candidate has done a pretty fucking damn good job for no money by just being an annoying pest.
Yep.
He's taken on both leaders and kind of nudged them off.
Yep. Although no matter what you think, that whole kind of no more Labour pains is still the best chant. It's a pretty clever chant.
It was a good chant.
Let's say a big thank you to Jeremy. Jeremy just got himself If the Left Vote green t-shirt as well. I don't know if I mentioned that, so I thought I'd mention it before we go. Other thing to remind you is if you want to be a part of our team permanently, you can always be a patron as well. Patreon.com/Big Hearing News. What date are we at? Probably next weekend, maybe not this weekend, but next weekend we'll have a meetup. And I was thinking, Chewy, actually, I was thinking of what we're going to do for these election debates. Maybe we'll do one, because the debates are going to be on at 7:30 at night. Maybe we'll do the looking at the debate behind the paywall, and then at 9 o'clock come back and do the normal show or something like that. Maybe I'm thinking it out. So there might be, because you guys have been patrons for a while. We really do appreciate you, and we want to absolutely honor you back by giving you some stuff that others don't get, which you do already get. There was an early release of that. Never say early release of that interview today, and obviously we have our meetups and that kind of stuff as well. But patreon.com/Big Hearing News. If you're not a patron and you do feel like getting on board as well, of course you can, as you see scrolling along the bottom of the screen right now. Come along and you can get some of our merch. Our merch up at the moment. Now, for newbies who are just joining us, the merch goes like this. We put up unique merch every single time. So yes, we've had the slogan before, if the left vote, the left wins, but we've never had these colors. So we had black and white, I think, last time, didn't we? So black and white will never be back. But now we've got red and green, if the left vote, the left wins, in both hoodies and also in t-shirts. And then we've got some merch, BHN merch up there as well. The BHN merch will stay. But if you do get any of the merch, look at that, it's like a rainbow. Whilst the live stream is going, you can use a promo code from that night. There'll be a different promo code every single night. Tonight's promo code is, I'm just waiting for it to scroll by because I can't remember. Promo code is something like free something. There it is, free ship. It's free ship, and that'll be active for about another 12 minutes, and then it goes away, and there'll be a new one for tomorrow night. So thanks for you guys who have jumped on board and already got some merch. I'll be making that order on Thursday night after the show, getting it delivered to the printers on Friday, getting it posted out next week. So you'll have them, let's say, by the end of next week, and we'll do this for 3 weeks. This will be a 3-week cycle of merch drop. Anything else, Chewy?
Yep. Debate night on the piss. Absolutely.
Although I was thinking, Chewy, what I'm going to propose to you is that you and me do the debate, which will probably be 7:30, and then at 9 o'clock we'll get a couple of contributors come along, probably one from the right, one from the left, and we'll get like a Simon Wilson and a David Farrow or something like that to come along at 9 o'clock, and then we'll talk about the debate. So if we're too schnozzed by 9 o'clock, I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work, but we're still thinking this out, guys. We're still thinking this out.
Yeah.
All right. This is us. We're done, I think.
Oh, just tried the Patreon link to 404.
What?
What have you done? You turned off the t-shirt pipe.
Patreon link 404 era. What are you talking about? Where I'm looking for the thing I'm supposed to go. Here we go. patreon.com/BIGGHAIRYNEWS. Boom. Patreon.com there. Boom. There. Okay. Seems to be working. Maybe you didn't quite get the URL right. Try that again, Doom. But maybe NZ Doom every time they try a website.
Your link in the description. So maybe on YouTube or something.
Did I have a link in the description? Okay. All right. I apologize. Oh, look, tell me where. Doom, send us one more message. Where is that link and what app are you looking at? Because I'll go and find it and fix it. But I don't know what you're talking about. Although you're watching on YouTube, so you're probably on YouTube. All right, guys. That's us for another night. We'll be back tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another edition.
It's the YouTube link.
Is it? What does it say?
It's the link in YouTube. Just 404. You got any spelling issues in there? http://patreon.com/BigHairyNews. See that one. No, doesn't seem to be working.
But even though the spelling's right, bizarre.
Yeah.
Yes, this is our tangent, and the tangent is us being very quiet, trying to search for things. It's good broadcasting, eh? All right, guys, we'll catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. We'll make sure, just maybe if you copy that link off and paste it, it'll probably work. Because if the spelling's all right, it should work, obviously. We'll catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another edition. Big Hearing News. Love you to bits. And thank you for all those people. I should have one more quick look. I don't want to miss out on anyone in case anyone has.
Smash that like. Smash it. Smash it.
There. And Maori Meteor is now following us on Twitch as well. Lovely. Because nice. You'll be the second person to ever watch us on Twitch. All right, guys. We'll catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. Hooroo, be safe, and we'll see you then. Ciao.
See you.